Well, good morning and good afternoon or good evening to colleagues that are watching us. My name is Luís Kimaid. I'm the Executive Director of Bússola Tech. If you don't know me, we work on promoting these discussions and research about parliamentary modernization and digital transformation. I have my distinct pleasure to welcome here dear friends and colleagues. First, Brahma Mishra, CEO at MeetMonk. Ewerton, Silva, the IT coordinator for AI at the Senado Federal of Brazil, and Lynne, Frappier, the head of publications at the House of Commons in Canada. The topic today is not a new topic. However, we want to deep dive on something that many parliaments are starting to work on, which is the use of artificial intelligence for speech text, meaning transcribing the meetings from the committees, from plenary sessions into the official answer reports. Currently, this is a technology being used by a number of parliaments. However, the challenge remains on increasing the accuracy of such technologies. So the topic of today's debate is specifically on that point. How can we increase the accuracy, both through technological means and also with social engineering in the parliaments, something that we're going to discuss today with our friends here in this panel. And to start the panel, I'd like to open the floor for each one of our guests to make their opening presentations for the time of 10 minutes. If you allow me, I'll start with you, Lynne. The floor is yours if you wish to start your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for inviting me again today. So I have a presentation that I will share. So increase the accuracy of speech to text. So we at the House of Commons started looking into a proof of concept of using voice recognition, automated voice recognition within our first part of our text production in our trans-editing module. In about 2022, 2023, we started some different proofs of concepts. We had to test out a few different companies because we needed to make sure that they could work in English and in French. We split up our work based on teams that support our committees and then teams that support the debates in Hansard. And they're also then further broken up into English work or French work. We don't have anyone that works in both languages. And so what we saw with our proof of concept was that in committees, we would see between 15 and 16% of increased speed in being able to produce our blues. And in debates, it was considerably higher, closer to 30%. Part of that is in debates, it's very much a set system as to how a debate happens, how the day unfolds. We follow an agenda that stays very similar, whereas in committees, there's a lot of back and forth. There's also back and forth between members or witnesses, and so due to that, it is a bit slower in what the ASR is able to help us with. So that's where we started off with our proof of concept, was that we were looking for about a 21% increase overall. How automated speech recognition works in our production here at the House of Commons. So we start off with the audio of event capture. We have someone who's in either the chamber or in a committee room, and they are responsible for ensuring that the microphones are on, that the person that's speaking is properly identified, and that the language that they're speaking is properly identified. So every time someone changes the language they speak, that gets switched in our system automatically, and it gets identified so that it feeds into our in-house software, which we call Prism. It feeds all of that so that the trans editors are getting their 5-minute takes, and they're able to identify what language is spoken and who said it. They work on their takes, and at the end of the entire meeting, we produce the blues. Our blues are normally published within 24 to 48 hours, depending on the priority and depending on how much the workload is. As you can see here, The way that it looks in our trans editing module is that you would pick your take. Here they're bundled, but you would normally have one take. So we have the chair who spoke in English, and then we have her text. And so the trans editor would then be responsible for inputting that text. So that's what Prism looks like, and it follows throughout. The reason for the ASR also is, as you can see from the size of just the trans editing team, we have 38 English trans editors and 16 French trans editors. We look at about a 30 minutes to get a takeout for Hansard in English, 45 in French, and then in committees, it's about 45 minutes in English and 60 minutes in French. So the goal with the use of ASR is not only should that speed things up a little bit for us, but also if we see, for example, in this new 45th Parliament, that the French has increased, we should not have to increase the size of the team to be able to support that. We should be able to rely on ASR to help us mitigate the amount of work that's being done. We ended up deciding to implement Whisper AI. The reason was, one, we were able to integrate it into Prism. Two, it's bilingual. We had to make sure that it could recognize the language spoken and accurately produce the text with a low margin of error. So Whisper AI was a good option for that. The load capacity, ASR had to be able to manage the House debate while up to 8 committee meetings sit concurrently, and then the cost of it. So we went with Whisper AI. From April to December 2024, this is a bit of what we got. So as you can see, we had some repetition of lines, so repetition of text. We had the fact that it included so every time someone would say or it didn't properly identify or capitalize words that it was supposed to. So these were things that we found as we were starting using ASR in our text production. I have some other examples of that continuing. We also got lots of hallucinations and translations. So we then had a break from December until May of 2025 because the House didn't sit. So when the House resumed last year, we were able to put in some improvements. However, some of the things that we still saw, for example, is in the bottom example and highlighted in yellow, you can see that there's some French being put into what is being said, and then there's some English being put in when someone's speaking in French, and this is because that speaker is normally an English speaker, so ASR is getting confused with what it's supposed to be doing. We also, when it was over capacity and overloaded, you can see how often things are repeated. And so that was something that we needed to continue to improve on and to change and fix for when we returned in September. So where are we now? We did lots of changes from September to now. There was a period of time where ASR was so unreliable that we worked without it for about a 6-week period in end of October to December while we tried to fix things. So as you can see in the screen, the way that it appears is the gray box to the left is the preview of the ASR that's auto-generated, and the white box is what the trans editors work off of. And so from that point on, they are listening to the audio and they are doing human correction to adequately reflect what was spoken by that member or by that witness. So this is a positive example of something that works really well. Another example is everything that is in red here is in English, but everything that is in yellow is in French, but the member only spoke in English. And so we're still seeing that it's doing some hallucinations and translating text in a way that it's not supposed to. So we have to go back and we have to fix that. Part of the reason that we think this is also happening is we work in 5-minute takes. And so we think that if we're looking to the future, because we're looking to what we could fix for September, perhaps we would take our committee work out of 5-minute takes and we would look to the entire committee sitting. So a full 2-hour block, and then we would get all of the text from 1 2-hour block at once, generated, probably not into Prism, probably generated into a Word document, and then we would import it back into Prism in 5-minute takes, but hopefully have overall a better consistency of the text that we're getting. Another thing that we are now starting to try is we're creating almost like a macro system where all of our reference materials, so our style guides, our manuals, access to the committee notices, access to previous meetings, everything would be used so that when the ASR is imported into this, it would automatically look to all of those different references to, and as you can see, it is in, there are colors on the bottom part where we are double checking if it really is the speaker that's speaking or thanking the speaker, if that's the correct law that they're discussing, if that's the criminal code, if that's how we would spell it, if that's how we would put it in. So everything that should be checked is then identified in a very visual way so that the trans editors are, one, looking to see if that's the correct information right off the bat, knowing that that's something that needs to be double checked by a person, but also not having to go and research all of that information by going and looking at all the individual guides, because it's all going to be feeding into this tool. So, and we continue it with being able to check affiliations, by being able to check the title of documents. So this is an in-house made tool that we are looking to use. The reason that we are going in that direction is because we are employed, we still need the people, we still need humans to be doing the work, they still need to be thinking, they still need to be critically thinking about what they're hearing and what is appearing in the official evidence. And so rather than decide that we want to include a layer of artificial intelligence along with the ASR to improve it, we're trying to simply use manuals that we ourselves create, that we know are our rules and regulations and our practices and procedures, and identify a way to help our employees make use of them, be more consistent. If this works for the trans editing stage, it would then be able to be used for the editing stage, where then the editor's manuals would then be able to be implemented as well. So the idea is that at some point we should be looking at probably merging our first 2 steps in our text production and making them more of one, and then only having that third, the read through overall, as the final text production. So we're trying to find ways to use ASR and artificial intelligence to help us make tools available for humans to be able to do the critical thinking and the final output of the work that we're doing here at the House of Commons. We are very much in the early stages of all of this. We're starting a huge text production renewal program where Prism, the software that we use, we're reevaluating because it's 25 years old. So it's time to look to the future and what we can do. And so these types of conversations are great for me because I see what the possibilities are out there, and I can come back to our programmers and say we should be thinking about some of those things as well. But that's what we're doing here at the House of Commons.
Thank you very much, Lynne, for your presentation and for sharing what you're doing currently at House of Commons. Ewerton, allow me to give you the floor for you to share your presentation as well for the time of 10 minutes. Not sure if you are sharing your screen as well. If you are, please feel free to proceed, or if not, to proceed with your remarks.
Okay, thank you again for the invitation, Kimaid. This is a very important meeting of a very relevant subject for the parliaments all around the world. I'm going to show some PowerPoint screens at the end of my talk. Well, I'm here at Senado Federal of Brazil since 2023, and we have been using automatic speech recognition tools since at least the beginning of that year. I am not one of the analysts that work directly in handset production. I'm an IT analyst, an information technology analyst, but I have participated in the development of a new software system to provide automatic transcriptions of plenary sessions and committee meetings using artificial intelligence. At that time, when we started to build the system, online tools like Telegram bots, TurboScribe, and other similar tools solutions were being employed by the analysts to transcribe such audios and accelerate their work routines. Our new transcription software was released to production in December 2023. The software is called STI, which is the acronym for Intelligent Transcription System of Senado Federal of Brazil. And initially, we built our solution upon OpenAI Whisper models that could run in our local infrastructure. We chose Whisper Medium and Whisper Small as the main models at that time. There was an increasing adoption of STI in the handset production process since then. However, we quickly understood that we needed to invest more in computing power to provide timely and higher quality transcription results, as those models were not the best in the literature. And the AI transcription scenario was starting to grow fast. And by analyzing the accuracy of the transcriptions with those models and making comparisons with new models that were emerging in mid-2024, we decided to integrate Google API into STI to use Gemini models. These multimodal AI models improved the quality of the results and took STI to a new stage where fast and highly accurate transcriptions were possible, almost like a dream come true. So we started to combine Whisper and Gemini models to get the best of them in different scenarios. For instance, when we needed a model to transcribe confidential audios, we used Whisper Logic V3 Turbo running in our local data center, or when our Gemini usage quota exceeded. Currently, we use Whisper Logic V2 over API calls. So one can ask, well, is STI solely an API or model activator then? The answer is, of course not. STI is a much expected improvement in our handset procedures that brings AI into the table. And when we leverage AI, new ideas emerge. For example, we decided to tackle the speaker classification task, which is more challenging than the transcription one. We trained models for identifying the speaker in a fragment of audio after a deorization procedure that segments the audio. The tests were successful, but the functionality is not in production due to lacking computing requirements for such. The deorization process is very computing intensive, so we cannot use it in this stage, but we have all the functionality ready when we have much more computing power available. Still, STI is a software solution that enables AI in the relevant parliamentary transcription tasks. So I have some graphics here, and these are some screens that show our first prototype. So in the beginning, STI was like this, a website that you can use to put the audio, choose a model, and then have the result. This is an example of the deorization and classification task. So we have, for example, here, Senador Cleitinho saying something, then Senadora Leila Barros saying something after him. The workflow of our process to transcribe the audios is this. We have a plenary session, a committee meeting, and we get the audios from a directory that is shared. And these audios are processed by some robots, the STI robots, we call them like this. And we process the audios with some chosen models. And these results are put in a new directory in a JSON file. The JSON file is this one. So we have here some metadata, like the duration of the audio, the duration of the process, the name of the audio, and the transcription, the confidence of the speaker, if the speaker classification functionality is activated. But what I want to show here is this graph. We have here the usage of AI by the SERET, which is the Secretary of, let me see, a good translation for this. This is the secretary that has the analysts that work in the enhanced production. So we have 67 analysts. At that time, we had 67, and 51 were using the intelligent transcriptions provided by SDI, which is 76% approximately of usage. And as you can see, this has been evolving over time. The orange bar is the use of AI. So we can barely see blue bars, which are the bars that relates to the use, not the use of the AI system. And here we have the use of AI, of our AI in meetings and sessions. So in June 2025, we had 88% of use in meetings and 72% in plenary sessions. And that's it.
Thank you very much, Ewerton. She can just stop sharing your screen. There it goes. Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Brahma, I'd like to recognize you for you to share your thoughts and your remarks as well. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Luís. Great discussion so far, and it's a real honor to be a part of this discussion. So we have been working on the whole audio pipeline, not only just ASR, but all the way to ASR, TTT, and TTS. In essence, having the entire pipeline of translation in real time. What we have seen is that when we started the journey about a couple of years ago, the whole idea was to utilize the LLMs of the big tech companies and do the API calls and produce the output. We have come to realize in last year to year and a half that it doesn't cut it anymore. You have to have heavy engineering done on your side to actually produce the desired output. So we have moved on from the using the LLMs to kind of developing all those in-house and doing heavy engineering on top of it to increase the accuracy. So there is always that gap that exists between the 85% accuracy and 95+% of accuracy, where it stops being an experiment or a POC and it actually becomes a real world application. That's the gap we are trying to bridge. So what generally happens is when you directly use LLMs and just call the APIs and try to get either the output in transcription form or in translation form, there are several parameters that need to be taken into account. For example, the noise cancellation. Many of these LLMs now come with noise cancellation, but having exclusive algorithm on top of it is essential. What we have seen is, and again, it will probably be a little antithesis of what we are discussing now today, but what I have seen is just AI does all the heavy lifting, but on the ASR side, a lot of audio engineering also is needed. When I say audio engineering, actually recognizing the speaker, actually recognizing the sentences that are being uttered, or sometimes part of the sentence. We have specific algorithms done for, say, sometimes a word is cut out, or something you say, you switch a language mid-sentence. So you're probably quoting someone in a different language. or you are just saying something, a proverb maybe in a different language. So all those things make the large models hallucinate sometimes. So so you need another layer of engineering on top of what you get through direct API calls to make those kind of, again, making that gap to have good enough to have a great, between the difference between a good enough system and a great system. And Lynne, you showed the hallucinations happening when the system gets overloaded, and we have seen that way too many times for our comfort. So what we realized is we have to have a filter, somewhere before the AI takes over, and that's the audio engineering we have done. So what we have several such proprietary algorithms we started developing to make that the recognition more accurate. One is noise cancellation, of course. The other one is pause detection or sentence termination detection. When you really know that somebody, is a sentence or a phrase is terminating, and you transcribe it. Then we use something called boundary detection, which actually makes a lot of difference in edge cases where words are half understood, or something happened, I half uttered a word and started coughing, or a music or background music noise, something interrupts. In those cases, boundary detection actually detects where a meaningful sentence ends, or a meaningful phrase ends, or a meaningful word ends, and the next one starts. So then comes, if we start actually taking a reference from this current sentence to the previous sentence, which many LLMs do without naming such models, what happens is they take the whole context, previous context, and the current context, try to stitch a whole sentence. In that case, what happens? Your latency is affected. So in order to do that, we have an algorithm now, with patent pending algorithm. What it does is it takes the minimal amount of information from the previous sentence, which keeps the latency really low, but also the context is maintained. That's the boundary condition I'm talking about. So with all these, we have done the benchmarking, and it's super good. It is coming around. But with that, what we have seen is with the AI is slowly transitioning, and this the trend which we have been seeing is that the what I started saying in the beginning is just API calls won't cut it anymore, because during the POC stages, almost everything looks extremely successful. But the actual litmus test happens when you take it to the production floor, when you do the stress test, when there are multi-tenant streams coming through. When I say streams, input voices coming through, and at a large scale for a sustained period of time. Then, if you do not have the mechanism to flush out the prior context, the context keeps piling up, and then the model goes into overdrive, and it starts hallucinating. So, and that's not the fault of the models. Models are doing their work wonderfully. It's the feeding into the model that has to be fixed. So those are the engineering premises you have to take into consideration, implement in your own system, do on top of these these models to be able to get the desired output, where it's actually real world, where it actually does make sense to replace the human transcription, but keep the quality really intact and reduce the time manifold, not just single digit percentages, but actually like increasing by 50%. And with these changes, we have done the benchmarking, and it's, like I said, it's super good in terms of accuracy and latency. Then comes the next frontier is diarization. In parliaments, what happens many times in many parliaments, again, I don't know specifics of each, but we have worked with say, for example, say Indian Parliament I have seen, and some other places I have seen, in which the members' positions are fixed. So you can identify where they're speaking from, and that will help in your capturing the transcripts with the member's name. But in some other parliaments, the seating is random, including the U.S. House of Congress. In that case, how do you identify? You identify from their voice signature, or at least speaker 1, speaker 2, and coming back to speaker 1 if there's a discussion going on. So you have to really, in matter of seconds, get their voice signature, understand who is speaking. If it's male versus female, it makes it easier. But if it's male, same gender, 3 different speakers speaking, really within seconds, within like 5 seconds, recognizing their voice signature and putting that into your diarization algorithm is also important. So these are the various things we have seen in practical application for parliaments, several parliaments transcription generation process, which makes it really efficient, which kind of does a hands-off approach, meaning you turn on you set it up, make sure the mic is noise free, this and that, the room is doesn't have an echo or something, and which acoustically most of the parliaments are very well equipped. But having said that, once it's set up, and that we are kind of working on a hands-off approach, you let people speak, and at the end you get the entire transcript very neatly separated by speakers, identifying the speakers who spoke what. If there is a change in language mid-sentence, do you recognize that and possibly translate it? And all that we store on the Hansard's dashboard, in which on one side by date stamp you have the entire actual audio, the real audio, without any messing around with it, the true copy of the audio, and the transcript is displayed right underneath. As the audio plays, the portion of the transcript is highlighted, so you know exactly what it corresponds to. And if there is a mistake, you can go back and make those updates and save. And then you can download it to any language you like, because it quickly translates the entire thing. That's what we have kind of been tinkering with our AI. So yeah, hope that helps. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brahma, for your comments and your presentation on this topic as well. And I have prepared a few questions for you, if you allow me. And I'll ask you, Lynne, you started to touch on this during your presentation, but in your view, what are the main challenges today? In your case, you mentioned the French and the English dynamics. What is the challenge on increasing the accuracy on those 2 languages? Today, you think that the biggest challenge is more on the technology side, on the hallucinations as you described, or is it on the social dynamics of the parliaments with members sometimes overlapping and speaking at the same time? What are your thoughts on this?
So I think it's a couple of things. One, I think we are not a verbatim parliament. We don't have a verbatim text production. And so in English, that is simpler because what is spoken and what is read is often very similar. But in French, it's quite different. And so one of the things that I'm working on with my French team is identifying the fact that we need to stay closer to what is being spoken. We also have a lot of French as a second language speakers. And so even the way that they're thinking about how they construct a sentence when they speak in French is the way that an Anglophone would speak in French. And so a Francophone would want to change that and make it accurate to how that sentence would have been said. So we have the conflicting model of ASR could be giving me exactly word for word what was said by the member in French, but my French team would think that that's incorrect French, and so that should be changed. So we have to work on what is acceptable and what do members of parliament and what do the general public that are reading these records, what is their expectation? Are they expecting to read what they hear, or are they expecting to read something that reads well while they listen to an audio that would give them a sense of what the circumstances were? So there's that issue with the accuracy on that end. The other part with us specifically is the prism is very antiquated. It's 25 years old, and so in technology speak, that's basically 100 years old, with the things that have changed from 2000 to 2026. And so we really have to identify where are we going in the future, but also where is text production going to go into the future, so that we can be thinking that far ahead. I remember last year we had the presentation about where we were able to see the text generated as the person was speaking and the correction. And I came back from seeing that presentation saying, like, that is so cool. That would be a great way for us to do our job, because it also keeps trends editors who are used to typing a bit more in the typing world as opposed to reading, which is what an editor does. So that would potentially be a way to start moving towards a better use of ASR and AI in text production, while keeping humans involved as you are slowly upskilling them into what they need to be doing. So I think that we're really at a crossroads right now of seeing where we want to go and how we're going to get there.
Thank you so much, Lynne, for your comments. Ewerton, would you like to comment on this point as well?
Sure. I would say the main challenges here at Senado Federal of Brazil, some of which are being considered as future projects and enhancements for our transcription systems, are three. The first one is how to provide the models with internal standards for producing the text. For example, here, the transcribed text has to be in accordance with grammar rules and standards defined by the Parliamentary Registration Drafting Secretariat. However, Whisper models do not accept long prompts, so we cannot pass this information to help increase the results. But this can be accomplished with multimodal models that have a large context window. So this is in our roadmap. Second, the models do not always new models do not always mean better results. Some new models might generate only equivalent results in comparison to their previous versions, and they can be even more expensive. So sticking with a model that has been extensively tested or migrating to a new one is a dilemma. And three, this is something we deal with daily: proper names. For instance, some senators' names are always transcribed incorrectly, and as the model is not being updated, this behavior is persistent. We deal with this scenario in a programmatic way. We have a spreadsheet that contains the transcribed term and its correction, and we post-process the transcription to fix the mistakes. Maybe the use of a large language model instead of Whisper may help us in overcoming this challenge in a more proper way. And finally, I had only three, but this one that is really worrying for us is hallucinations that usually happen mainly in empty audios. We make sure that all transcriptions are subject to human supervision. So with this, we avoid spurious text to be passed to later steps in the handset production.
Thank you very much, Ewerton, for your comments. Brahma, would you like to comment on that topic as well? Brahma, I think you're muted.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yes, sure. Yeah, I would love to pitch in on the accuracy aspect of transcription generation that I kind of touched upon in the earlier discussion as well. And the two good points that I hear from both Lynne and Ewerton. One is the quality is better in English than in other languages, rightly so, because the English database is the best so far in almost all large models, and others are trying to catch up, but they are not there yet, and it's continuously improving. On the other side, newer, larger models are not a guarantee to be better. Like Gemma's 26 billion model is definitely a leap forward, but just kind of retrofitting without kind of doing the other peripheral work or understanding what exactly your needs are could actually backfire. So 26 billion versus a 3 billion model or 6 billion model would probably be a better choice to look at. But again, the whole idea lies in the fact that what exactly are your majority cases, what languages your members are using, and whether it's a verbatim reproduction or a gist of or kind of a correct or more official verbiage that you use post facto. So that kind of dictates what model you have to use. But what I've seen is many times you can tweak the models a little bit to produce very formal or semi-formal or exactly as uttered by the members, and that will transcribe it that way. And then the Hansard staff could modify a few things here and there and touch up and make it better. So it's not, what I've seen is always a human intervention makes it so much better, but having it entirely AI driven is where the trick lies in terms of making the proper deployment decision that makes a lot of difference. Like I said, understanding what is the requirement of the Parliament is, and understanding the tech stack that supports the AI implementation would probably be the best step in kind of automating the transcript generation. But having humans in the loop makes it always the better, because provided your transcript generation has, you have a little bit of luxury of time to make those updates. If it is immediate, then the whole stack has to be revamped.
Thank you very much, Brahma, for your comments on this question. Lynne, I'd like to bring the next question to you, and that is in regards to the combination of speech-text technologies like we are discussing here. All of you mentioned the Whisper model, among others. What are the potentials to combine such speech-to-text technologies to generative AI for different purposes, for revision, for structure and the theorization of the sessions and other committee meetings? So what are the prospects that you see for this in the coming years in the House of Commons?
I think that there's a lot of opportunities. For example, when we created Prism in the early 2000s, it was a new system where it integrated all the different services that support House publications. So it has everything from the entry of members of Parliament, all of their affiliations, correct spelling, where we have our witnesses, where we can have our committee notices. Everything is integrated in one system. And so what I think could potentially happen with our future is, for example, from the blues, an ASR generated blues, which hopefully is of the quality that with very little human intervention could be generated as the first layer, and then but identified as like an AI generated text as the first draft, and then we would have humans intervening for the rest. But from that, if we're able to create minutes, because for example, sometimes the clerks are waiting for us to publish the blues in order for them to publish their minutes, because it's different services that create that. That could be automated, that decisions that are made in that committee, or if motions are agreed to, that would be easily pulled and automated as information that would need to go directly to the clerk, so that they're able to inform their committee as to what those decisions are, share that information. If we're able to make that, to translate it immediately, as opposed to we send everything to our translation bureau. So that would be artificial intelligence and a translating module to be able to help create that, to have more consistent translation of specific things, of specific documents that potentially do not get published for the public consumption, but needs to be used internally, that would save us time. So I think that there are very specific things that we'd be able to use AI in a way that is able to support and automate things that take up a lot of time, but don't need a lot of human involvement in order to be able to get to the next step. It's at the next step where then you need that human intervention and that critical thought to make sure that whatever is officially published, whatever is shared with the public and is the official record, has had human eyes and a human brain attached to it. So I think that that's potentially where we will be able to see gains. For example, we index everything at the House of Commons. That is done by indexers. I think that there's automation that can be used and is used elsewhere that we need to start integrating so that that becomes, it's part of the process, it gets done faster, and so that we can find ways to find efficiencies and use people in a capacity that we need them now for the future. So.
Thank you very much, Lynne, for your comments. Ewerton, the same question to you. Do you see any potentials on integrating speech to text with Gen AI?
Yes, I think Lynne highlighted the word automation in her speech, and I'd like to highlight two words here: the combination, combine things, and integrating things. I think multimodal large language models are able to combine several media types to give a proper response. So generative AI has the power to quickly analyze huge volumes of data at once, which can be very useful for any area, even more for handset production. For instance, the model may be asked to transcribe an audio or video in accordance with a set of rules from a PDF file, make corrections pointed out in a spreadsheet, and even access an API to retrieve context from previous audio of the same meeting. There are endless possibilities, in my opinion. And second, more important, we need to worry about the results given by powerful generative models, since they might modify what was said by the speaker. This elevates the need for a good prompt, the use of guardrails, and the human supervision, the human in the process. And finally, in 5 years, I see generative AI being used extensively by the area, the hands-on production area, especially in providing good transcriptions, segmenting the audios, identifying the speakers, detecting or reducing hallucinations, and maybe in detecting intercurrences such as the bell rings, commotion, etc. And also a live transcription of plenary sessions. I think that can be dreamed of for our parliament.
Thank you very much, Ewerton. Brahma, I know you have a few ideas on this topic. Would you like to share them?
Sure, Luis. I think generative AI, I know generative AI absolutely enhances the capabilities of automatic speech recognition in a way that it actually interprets speech, not just convert the speech to structured text that ASR started with doing. So when I say it actually actively interprets, what it means is it understands the linguistic nuances, it understands the grammar, the syntax, the tone of delivery, it understands the context, the emotion, the overall intent of the speech, which is a much bigger and better way forward from the conventional ASR that it started with. The generative AI models actually understand, are able to a certain extent do speaker labeling. They can do noise filtering as well, and they can after the discussion, the meeting is over, they can summarize, and the summary has been really spot on, and they're improving day by day. It can detect the sentiments and even provide, if there is a question, it could provide some systematic and appropriate responses. So all these things are sometimes critically important, may not be on the parliament floor, but in a committee room or a discussion going on, having suggestions is very important. So having Gen AI associated with ASR increases the capability manifolds, and I think this will keep getting, that will become more seamless and more nuanced and more human-like going forward. Forget about 5 years, the kind of pace at which things are evolving. I'm thinking within next couple of years, it will be kind of ASR very tightly coupled with Gen AI, and there will be a single pipeline in the background where you see you deliver a speech, it will understand your sentiment, understand the context, understand even a reference to a particular portion of the discussion that happened maybe a month ago, and get that to the context to deliver a meaningful response. So yeah, to answer your question, absolutely yes.
Thank you very much, Brahma. And my last question to you, Lynne, if you allow me. For colleagues in parliaments that are still starting their digital transformation and their use of AI, we usually recommend that moving to the speech-to-text transcriptions with artificial intelligence as a way moving forward to generate the data that they might need for other applications as well. But what would be your recommendation to achieve higher levels of accuracy in the adoption of such tools? Even more so, I think you are very well positioned because you're speaking in a bilingual parliament. So how would you see these challenges for the two languages you're managing today?
Well, I actually was going to say that I think my answer will be different than anyone else on the panel, because I'm looking at this as the manager of a shop as opposed to the IT implementer of technology. And so I would say for someone who is looking at starting this from scratch, I think that my biggest lesson is making sure that the employees that are going to be supporting this understand what it really means to their work. I think that we had very limited understanding when we started with our proof of concept. It really was shown or understood, because I replaced the person who used to manage the shop. It was really understood as this is a tool that will be used, but you don't need to change anything that you are doing. And I think that there is a change that is required for people to be able to use ASR and any artificial intelligence. And it's all about thinking about the way that you're going to use it. And so, for example, in my case with 2 different languages, we have to rethink how we're doing it in French. We have to have a clear understanding that what is on the page needs to really reflect what the spoken word is. And that is something that I think over time the team has moved farther away from, and now we need to pull them closer to it. And so that is a reality in having to, I don't have to rethink, or I don't have to think about the IT technology that I'm using. I have to think about, how am I training people? Are our practices and procedures internally, are our style guides, are these the right tools? Are we still doing the work the right way, or do we need to change the way that we do it? So it's not just thinking about implementing a program or a software because you think you're going to find efficiencies. You won't find efficiencies if you don't think about the other part of that, which is the human aspect. And you also want their buy-in so that they understand that they are adding value in a different way. And so before, their value was in how fast they could type, and now their value is a strong understanding of the work that they have been doing for years. So they have an understanding of our parliamentary system and the way that meetings run, but also a critical thinking of what is expected in the text. And so that's what we have to leverage, as opposed to testing people now to be fast typers. And as we hire new employees that are younger and are spending their time in school using all of this technology, that is probably less of an issue. But as I face dealing with employees that have been here for 40 years, the work is substantially different from 40 years ago. And so my expectation of how I support them has to help them get to where we are right now, because they still want to work. So mine is not an IT response, it's more of the human resources response.
Thank you very much, Lynne. Those are actually very interesting points that you raised on reskilling colleagues and adopting these new technologies. And I could speak here on this topic for different areas where the UX of the platform was adapted for colleagues to feel more comfortable using a UX that would look like Microsoft Word, but in behind it had all of the XML standards working. Which is a fantastic approach that you're describing. Ewerton, would you like to share your thoughts on this question as well?
Yes, Kimaid. I would suggest something very similar to what we have experienced here at Senado Federal of Brazil. The first thing is to test some open source models to check their capabilities. Maybe these models might be good enough for the requirements of the Parliament, and they involve less costs. So this can be a very good strategy to begin with. The second one is a constant monitoring of the results, because it's necessary to understand where the models are performing well and poorly. Sorry. When receiving bad results, a post-processing step could be applied before delivering the text for editors. And when hallucination happens, we could register them to comprehend in which situations the AI model are more likely to generate one hallucination. The third thing is understanding the limitations of AI. We are not going to get 100% accuracy. So if we get 90%, is that good? Is that not good? We have to understand that AI is not going to solve our problems. We have to understand that we humans are going to be part of the process, and we will still be there, even if AI gets much more powerful. And fourth and last, I think we need to be up to date with the AI field, even more if you are of the information technology area, because the user is interested in AI too. So they come to us and think, what about this model? Can we test it? It seems interesting. I would like to use it for transcribing. Can I do that? And we have to provide a response. So these new and powerful models are made available each week or month. So we need to be updated to give good results to the users. That's it.
Thank you very much, Ewerton. Brahma, would you like to share your remarks on this topic as well?
Yeah, if the question is, if I understood it correctly, if your question is about a parliament that is starting the journey now in the automatic speech recognition arena, what would be my recommendation? Well, my recommendation would be threefold. Number one, don't jump the bandwagon. AI is not just a buzzword anymore. It is going to be here and going to be here for a very long period of time. So take your time in actually understanding what you need to achieve and go with it, and don't rush the journey. It's not a sprint, it's going to be a marathon. Number two, on the technology side, I believe choosing, like once you make a decision as to what you need, choosing the right model, the right approach, the right engineering, and having the right people, the right architects and the developers to make it happen is important. Like I said, just kind of hiring a packaged solution from outside, just calling the APIs and making it look good would be temporary, whereas actually building a part of it ground up, maybe not just using the wrapper classes, but actually building the engineering around it. It will give you flexibility. It will enable you to make changes in future as the requirements change a little bit, as it evolves, and it will be much more solid and much more kind of thing that you'd be proud of from the technology side. And lastly, the third point would be that you would need managers and leadership to be completely on board in sharing their vision, and the people need to be trained in AI, because the pace at which AI is evolving now is unprecedented. So people, the manpower, the employees you have are your biggest resources, biggest assets. So training them now will pay you much bigger dividends in very short time. And what I have seen is people really learn, adopt, and adapt to the changes very quickly, and they will start showing you results. They will start even helping you improve the overall system much sooner than you would expect. So I would say taking time to decide what you need, choosing the right stack with the right resources, technical resources with you, and the non-technical resources, the right amount of investment in sharing vision and training them to hit the ground running would be the best approach for a parliament that is trying to get on board newly in this journey of auto transcription generation.
Thank you very much, Brahma, for your comments as well. We're reaching the end of our panel discussion, but before we go, I'd like to yield the floor to each one of you for a couple of phrases if you want to leave a final message. Lynne, would you like to start?
I just want to say thank you. I think that these conversations are really informative. They help me think outside of the box that I'm exposed to here and what I understand about AI. And I took lots of notes today, so I know that I'll be implementing some of these things with my own team. I love the idea of training employees in AI to give them that step forward. So I appreciate that you bring us all together and that we can talk together. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lynne, for your participation today as well. Ewerton, would you like to say a couple of phrases to conclude our panel discussion today?
I would like to thank you, everyone, again for the opportunity to show our advancements and to know the improvements made by all the parliaments in this very important subject. There are many future challenges we need to accomplish. The AI is filled with very dynamic things, theories, and when we think we got there, the novel technology arises, sometimes more powerful, sometimes cheaper and accessible, and it draws attention and expands our horizons. The last phrase I would like to give here is we need to approach this hands-on production challenge not as one with a finish line, but as a one that evolves over time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ewerton, for your participation as well. Brahma, would you like to share your final remarks as well in a couple of phrases?
Well, I would say thank you so much. Very good discussions. I learned a lot. I always try to understand the struggle that others have in implementing this technology, not just on the technical side, but also on the people side. So understanding the problems and what you are doing to overcome them actually helped me in kind of doing the same in my organization as well. So yeah, wonderful discussion. Thank you so much.
And I'd like to thank all of you. And just to let you know, this is the topic that we are most requested to promote discussions by a variety of parliaments in all of the regions. How to use AI for increasing their effectiveness on the transcriptions, on the answered. So we are balancing giving you time to have new experiences and at the same time keeping the discussion alive for colleagues to learn from your amazing experiences. So on behalf of Bússola Tech and all of the colleagues that have been requesting this, I'd like to thank all of you for your time.